Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm taking a look at the flip and write game Tend from designers Max Anderson, Zac Dixon, Austin Harrison, and Toby Sarnelle, and publisher IV Studio. I said this is a flip and write game, but it's actually quite a bit more than that. But you find yourself on an alien sort of planet trying to develop a homestead, building out a farm, raising livestock, going mining, going chopping down trees to find a variety of different resources to earn medals, to earn badges for the work that you're doing on this planet, ultimately trying to score the most points in order to win the game. Disclaimer, I was given a review copy from the publisher for this video, but as always, I will do my best to give you my own honest opinion on this game. With all that said, let's head down to the table to see how this one plays solo, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. Before I get started, I just want to point out that for this video, I will be making use of the Tend companion web app to run sort of the changing cards that we'll be playing through sort of running the game. And that's for sort of two reasons. One, because it means the game will take up less space on the screen, so you can see my actual sort of player boards closer up, and it should be easier to follow on camera, but also because the Tend companion web app offers something unique in that there is what is called a seed. So every randomly generated game of Tend on this web app will generate a seed, and then anyone has the ability to go into the app, type in that seed, and they should get the exact same generated play of the game, so you can sort of play along with people that you aren't physically sitting next to. And what that means is I'm going to, after I set everything up, I will generate a seed, and I will share that seed with all of you so that you can sort of play along with the exact same setup that I played with to see whether or not you can beat my score. And it'll sort of make it fun for me as well, because I can follow along down in the comments. And then it's less of a sort of beat my own score solo mode, and it becomes more of a community thing, which is a whole lot of fun. So I do want to do that. But before I get into the app, I do want to sort of set everything else up on camera. And I will sort of show you as I go into the app how to set everything else up if I was not using the app. But first things first, to set up a game of Tend, I need to get one copy of each of the two-player sheets. First, I will need one of these projects and cargo manifest sheets. And I am going to point out here, I will be using markers for this video. These markers are a separate box here. I do not have the deluxe copy of the game, but these do come in the deluxe version of the game. But this is an additional thing added in. But I want to use these for two reasons. One, because it's easier to sort of draw things in this section right here, but also because it should make things a little bit more visual and visible on screen. And the reason I mention that now is because as I take this, I should write a name in this box. So let's just give it the old Purple Moose in that box right there. And then we'll sort of slide that off to the side. Because in addition to that player sheet, we will need one further additional player sheet, and that is this one right here, the farm sheet. So I'm going to have both of those two out on the table, and as I place out other things on screen, I will need to move things around, so I'm just going to sort of stick them there for now. Because the next big thing that I do need is a market board. This is not something that I will interact with. It is simply a display to show things off, both to me and to you on camera as I explain the game, all of the different things that I will be interacting with, all of the different resources and so on in the game. And see, already you'll see that I need to slightly adjust to fit that onto my screen. Next thing I'm going to put out are those markers that I mentioned before. There are one of each of the 5 different color sort of types of resources in the game, as well as a black marker that I will use to sort of cross things off. I also need these 2 dice that will be used for fishing and potentially for mining or chopping when we find some geodes, but I'll explain all of that in just a minute. Over here in the corner, I'm going to place out all of my animals and crops that we could potentially be growing. Those are all represented by these big chunky dice. None of this is going to be rolled. You'll see later on. These are simply to mark things and sort of track the growth of things that you are placing out. But all of these are crops, and then this second set over here, all of these represent animals. Next, I do need to place out this scratch-off sheet that represents both the woods and the mines that we will be sort of searching through for different kinds of resources and goodies throughout the game. And let's adjust just a bit more like that. And then a couple of other small things that do need to get placed out. I do need this handy dandy scratcher here to scratch off the sections on that board. I'm going to place this geode card near that board as well because I will need to refer to that if I ever find any geodes in here. There are these 3 other fishing spots that could potentially become unlocked during gameplay, so I'm just going to stick those down here at the bottom of the screen. And hopefully, if I adjust things just right, they fit perfectly just down there at the bottom of the screen. And then finally, the only cards that I will need actually visible on screen are these neighbor cards because these will not be in the app. And I'm going to give these a good shuffle. And I'll just stick that deck over here. And from that deck to start my game, I need to draw 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And from that I will pick 2, but I do want to sort of set up the game before I decide which of those 2 to pick, and I'll explain what they do in just a second. The only other thing I want to put on camera is this here, which shows off the different phases of a round, just sort of as a reminder for me as I'm playing. So I'll just sort of stick that off there in the corner. It may be tough to see, but I will refer to it and sort of read through it as we go in game play. But with that, we are all set up aside from the stuff that will be shown on the companion app. And the first thing that would mean is I would need to choose at random 1 Season 1, 1 Season 2, and 1 Season 3 objective, and you'll see those in the app in just a second. And then what I would need to do is take the different task cards. So these are the starter cards, Season 1 cards, Season 2 cards, and Season 3 cards. And I would start by shuffling these starter cards out, placing 5 of them out onto the table for the first tasks in the first round. And then from the other 3 decks, I would first shuffle Season 3, placing 3 down face down on the table, shuffle Season 2, placing 4 of those face down on top of Season 3, and then again shuffling Season 1 and placing 4 down on top of the other 2 sets. And those would sort of be my reserved sets. And I would actually make 2 stacks of that same mix. So 3 Season 3, 4 Season 2, and 4 Season 1 from the bottom to the top in 2 different stacks. And you'll see from every round after the first, when I refill the tasks, I will always be refilling 3 cards from whatever I have in this sort of already played stack, and then 2 additional new cards from whatever those 2 stacks are showing at the time. But I'll show how that looks when we get into the app. I just wanted to show those cards off to you here on the screen so you have some idea of what the app is representing. And with that, we are all set up for gameplay. And I've got my iPad just here off to the side of the screen. I'm going to load up that companion app, or web app, I should say, since it is all housed online. And I'll sort of bring that onto the screen and off of the screen as I am doing things so that you can see what I'm interacting with, but also so that it doesn't cover up the screen constantly and you can sort of watch what I'm doing. And what I may end up doing is sort of shrinking it in this corner up here, but we'll see, and that'll be decided as I edit. So I don't want to make any promises right now as I'm going. But then this is the app here, and again, you see now 3 things. You see in the top left corner it says objectives. The green one here as I click is Season 1 objective. The yellow one, Season 2 objective. The red one is Season 3 objective. Then we've got 2 cards over here that are the 2 different stacks that I mentioned. You'll see that those are both Season 1 because the top of each of those decks is Season 1. And across the bottom you see 5 task cards, all of which are marked, you can see with the blue banner at the bottom that says Starter. That said, none of these are the ones we're going to play with because I want to make a seed for this video that all of you can use to play along. And well, since the seeds seem to be made up of 2 words with a hyphen in between, let's go ahead and create our own seed, Purple Moose, for this playthrough, PURPLE dash MOOSE, enter. Everything is randomized. My seed is now Purple Moose, so if you'd like to play along with this setup to see if you can do better than I do in this video. Please, please, please try it out. I'd love to see your scores down below in the comments, but let's take a look at what it has done to us, starting with the objectives. So before I do anything, I should mention that this game plays out, as you can see at the top of the screen, in 12 rounds. This first round will start with all starter cards, and then 4 rounds, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we will be adding 2 new Season 1 task cards each round. And then rounds 6, 7, 8, and 9, we will be adding in 2 new Season 2 cards each round. And then finally, 10, 11, and 12, we'll be adding in Season 3 cards. And those splits in seasons are an important thing because that is when we're going to score our seasonal objectives. So after round 5, as we begin round 6, I will be scoring the objective for Season 1. After round, let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10. So after round 10, as I move into, after round 9, as I move into round 10, I will be scoring the Season 2 objective, and then 10, 11, 12, we have 3 rounds. At the end of round 12, we'll score the Season 3 objective, and then we'll also do our end game scoring, and all of that is sort of explained here, but I will explain as well as we get into things. But first things first, let's take a look at the 3 objectives. Season 1 says we're going to gain 4 points for each empty area in my cargo manifest of size 1. So you can see these 2 spots here marked 4. These are going to be just empty spaces, and any individual 1 spot spaces I can make, the more I will score. And I'll explain how that works in just a second as I get into the cargo manifest, but just taking a look here on the screen. This area right here is my cargo manifest, so I'm trying to make individual squares of emptiness that are surrounded on all sides by something else. And for each of those, again, I will score 4 points. And it looks there that diagonals count, so it could be really nice to try and stagger things with a couple of those diagonal spaces. So then looking back, again, Season 2 says crossover. Again, focused on our cargo manifest. It says, gain 4 points for each good that is in 2 sections of my cargo manifests. So any grouping of goods that sort of stretches over the sections, again, looking here, you can see there are lines up and down here and here that separate this into 3 different sections. So anything that extends across one of those lines will score me 4 points at the end of Season 2. And then finally at the end of Season 3, we're going to gain 8 points for each completely filled row in my cargo manifest. And it does only show a corner here, but completely filled row is going to be all the way across this space, which is going to also be really cool because each of those completed rows is going to give us an additional task or action that we can take when we fill it in. So that's actually going to be doubly nice to make that happen. But we'll see how all of that works as we get into gameplay. And that's because each round is going to play out over a series of phases as shown here on this card. And we're actually going to skip all the way down to phase 5 for this first round because all of this stuff has happened during setup. But let me sort of walk through what each of these things mean. Now, the neighbor phase is unique in the solo game because in the multiplayer game, I will be potentially giving cards to my neighbors that give them resources. And then at the start of every round, they would then be using those resources to do things. Now, there are no physical neighbors in the solo mode, so I can't actually give things to anybody. So all I'm going to be doing there is replenishing my neighbor cards if I've used them. And you'll see that in a minute. We still have to choose 2 neighbor cards for this first round. Then again, in round 6, 10, and at the end of the game, we score the season objectives I just showed you. 3 is the setup phase, where we're going to draw 5 new task cards. So going back to this app screen for a minute, that means we're going to, from the deck of cards that we started with, and right now our deck of cards is simply made up of the starting cards, we're going to draw 1, 2, and 3 new cards from that deck. And then the final 2 cards that will be placed out are these 2 cards up here at the top of the screen. Those are sort of slide down into the rightmost 2 slots. But what that means is at the start of the next round, when we get to the next setup phase, all of those will be wiped and put into a discard pile. And what that means is when that deck that we're dealing from runs out, all of the cards in the discard pile will be shuffled. So when we start refreshing this in later rounds, it will contain some of those task cards that have been added as we've been playing through the game. And again, you'll see how that works better in the second round when we get there. But next, the growth phase. So we're going to tick up all crop and animal dice. What that means is each of these dice, when planted in your garden or when added as an animal, so let me pick another animal, will start at this level 1. And then during that growth phase, we will tick to whatever the next numbered value is. And anytime we tick to a space that is white, we will get one of whatever that resource is. So in this case, we'll get one of these flowers. Or in this case, we would get one of this sort of wool from these alien sheep creatures. And then you'll see there's an X here and there's a sort of repeat arrow here. The X here means that once that crop is harvested, that goes away unless we plant a new one. Whereas for the animals, once I shear that sheep, it's going to reset back to 1 and it will start ticking up at the beginning of every round. And we will continuously be able to get some wool from this sheep creature. And you will see that there are some like this pineapple kind of fruit here. I know that's kind of small. It ticks up to give us 1 fruit, and then it ticks up again, and then it ticks up again to give us a second fruit, and then it goes away. So each of these have slightly different timers on them, but during that growth phase, we will tick it 1 space up. Then finally, the last phase is the task phase. This is going to be the main bulk of the game, and this is when we're going to be taking actions on these crazy player sheets. Lots of stuff going on, but there's really not that much to think about or to deal with. It's just a matter of how you sort of combo everything together. So I'm going to sort of walk you through as much as I can of these player sheets. And then once I've done that, while we get through gameplay, hopefully things become a little bit clearer and make a little bit more sense going in. So I think the easiest thing to do is to start with this farm board because all of the tasks are printed directly on that board. And then I'll sort of spill over into other things as I explain. But picking this up and looking a little bit closer, our first task type is the tend task over here. And when we use a tend task, we are allowed to choose one of these 3 things printed here. I can plant a crop, I can tick up a crop, and adjacent means I'm watering the crops, or I can till 6 times. So when I'm tilling, I'm writing these sort of tilde-looking shapes into empty squares. And the reason I want to do that is when I place a crop, it goes into a square section of tilled land. So right now, the only size I can start with are these small 2x2s, which would then get planted as a level 1 in that 4 square area. And if I want to place out larger things, like the flowers I showed you before, I would need a 3x3 area. And likewise, if I'd like to plant these giant pumpkin type things, whoops, that's kind of heavy for me holding it here, that would be a 4x4 area like that. And again, in order to place those out, I need to have tilled enough land for them to fit into, and it will take 1 plant action to be able to place that out. The watering thing means that if I have multiple things together, for example, I had that pumpkin there and that little pineapple right there, by watering one of them, say this pineapple, because this pumpkin is adjacent to it, it would also be ticked up 1 space. So if I can build out lots of stuff in my farm and constantly be ticking them up, I could start growing and harvesting lots of goodies. So again, the 3 crops, main crops, are those sort of pineapples, these sort of flower-looking crops, and these pumpkin-type crops. But you'll see there is one further crop, which is this sort of oniony, garlicky bulb-type crop. And those are the same size as the pineapples, but in order to place those out, I need to build a trellis for them to grow onto. And a trellis is going to require me to spend 2 wood and 1 coin in order to build the trellis. And the trellis will be drawn in the center of a square of 2x2 square. And then from that point on, anytime I'd like to, I can place one of those small blue dice out into that area to harvest them or to start growing them. And those are also 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are a double resource crop that are of slightly higher value than those pineapples. Now, while I'm talking about this farm area, let me show you what else we can do there. And that is we can place animals into our farm. And there are sort of 3 animal types. Now, this is all sort of alien world, so it's not a direct comparison, but basically chicken, sheep, and cows. because these are making eggs, this is making sort of wool, and this is making a milk-like substance. And in order to place those into my farm, I have to pay for them. So 2 gold will give me a chicken, 3 gold will get me a sheep, and 4 gold will get me a cow. And I can have 4 chickens, 3 sheep, and 1 cow maximum. But the cool thing about the animals, as I showed you before, is they won't go away once I've sort of harvested whatever the resource is they're giving me. They will simply start that process over again. But in order to place them onto my farm, I need to build what looks like these sort of equal signs here. These are fences. And I can only place an animal onto my board if they're completely surrounded by fences. And it doesn't have to be a perfect match. And I can have multiple animals within the same fence system. So if I drew this huge fence that went all the way around the outside of this farm, I could place animals anywhere I wanted to. And you'll see the animals come in these size 2x2 chickens, these size 3x3 sheep-like animals, and the giant 4x4 cow-like animals. And again, they have to be completely surrounded by fences. The edges of the board don't count. And in order to build fences, I need to look here at this section right here is groundskeeping. So for 1 coin, I can till 1 land or draw 1 fence. For these rocks and these wood, I can draw 3 fences. For this red ore, I can draw 4 fences. And for this sort of iron ore or this tree stumps, I can place 5 fences. So using those, I can build out a ton of fences and make space for my animals. So that is the sort of farm-related tasks as well as the main tend task. Moving over into this blue section of the board is the fishing task. Fishing is somewhat random. You'll see here there's a grid, and I'm going to roll these 2 dice in order to figure out one location in that grid to take whatever it shows in that grid. So right now there are 2 different types of fish. There's this sort of blue coral looking creature, and then there's 1 space that would give me a piece of wood and a couple of spaces that give me nothing. You'll see that each of the dice also has this tend symbol on it. Make sure that's not too blurry. This tend symbol on it, and this tend symbol means I can choose any value of that colored die. So if I rolled, for example, 1 plus 10, anything in that top row would be selectable by me during that fishing action. Now, there are a variety of different places I can fish. This is right now pond fishing. If I manage to fill in all of the resources here, it means 2 wood, 2 coins, a rock, and this sort of red ore, sorry, I don't know the name offhand, copper. This copper ore, I will then unlock the river fishing, which is going to be a new grid that I can fish into instead of the pond fishing, and that will give me a variety of different other things that I can catch from fishing. Now this is a good time for me to start talking about some of the upgrades, because fishing is very random as a starting task, because I am just rolling dice and getting whatever the dice say. But there are 2 different ways that I can upgrade my fishing pole. By spending these resources, I can get this sort of plus shape, and by spending these resources, I can get a full 9 square grid. And what that means is instead of selecting the location where I am actually rolling, I can select one of those other locations adjacent to that spot, depending on which upgraded rod I've made. So there are other upgrades, and we'll talk about those now a little bit. The other upgrades means lures, upgraded pickaxe, upgraded hatchet, and upgraded tools are all going to give me a +1 action to any task that I take. So if I upgrade my tools, when I take a tend action, instead of choosing one of those things, I would then have 2 actions to take from among those things. Same thing with fishing. If I had lures, and I can actually get 2 of those for fishing, I can get 1 additional resource. The problem with fishing is I can never choose the same space twice on the same task. So in order for me to use additional actions, I need to have upgraded my rods so I can choose multiple of those sort of highlighted areas to trigger on a specific task. So that's fishing. Next is chopping and mining, and these I'm going to explain sort of at the same time because they're exactly the same thing, except that chopping is going to happen up here in the woods, and mining is going to happen down here in the mines. And what I'm going to do is, when I take one of those actions, I'm going to use this to scratch off a square. The rule is that I always have to start at the top row or adjacent to a space that I've already scratched off. The top half of each of these boards takes 1 action to do. the bottom half of this board will will cost 2 actions per scratch. In addition, while I'm scratching, I will potentially get one of these resources that's shown here, and it gives me an idea of what I can find at the top and the bottom. But some of those will also have colored squares with a little arrow on the top left corner, and those will tell me to cross off the next sort of level space on that specific task's level tracker, unlocking whatever it shows on that. And you'll see later on there are some task cards that will give me sort of special abilities if I've unlocked a certain number of those moving forward. Also, you can see there's a path through the middle of each of these cards. Those paths are the quickest way for me to get to the bottom of this board. And because when I get to the bottom of the woods, I will unlock this lake fishing space. And when I get to the bottom of the grotto fishing, I will unlock this grotto fishing, the bottom of the mines, I will unlock this grotto fishing location. So if I'm trying to get better fishing spots, that's the best way to do it, is to reach the bottom of one of those tracks as fast as possible. But while the pathway is the easiest and fastest way to get to the bottom, because some of those will actually unlock additional actions and let me scratch off more things, the more sort of juicy or better resources that I'm searching for will tend to be in the outer spaces that are sort of further away from the beaten path. I also want to point out while I'm here, this geode, anytime down here or down here I find a geode, I will roll on this chart just like I do on fishing and just get whatever the thing is that I land on. So that is woods and mines, and again, the top takes 1 action, the bottom takes 2, and I point that out again to remind you that here if I upgrade the hatchet for mining, for chopping, or the pickaxe for mining, I can then get a level 2 action or a double action, meaning 2 squares at the top or 1 square at the bottom, using that upgraded resource. But the other way we can get more actions are energy bars down here. Anytime I fill in 3 money in this section, I will unlock an energy bar, and each energy bar gives me 2 uses. And an energy bar will simply allow me to add +1 action to whatever task I'm taking by crossing off that energy bar, and again I can cross it off twice, meaning I can use it twice while I'm taking actions. So why am I doing all of this stuff? Why am I gaining all of these resources? What am I doing with all of these resources? A couple of things. Many of the resources will allow me to unlock things, getting upgrades, getting energy bars, buying animals, and so on. But the other things I'm doing are filling in all of this stuff over here. For each of those resources that I get, let me show you this one up close. For each of those resources that I get, I can either sell them at market for money, shown here, or I can place them into my cargo manifest, filling in a shape that looks like whatever this is of the color matching that type. So all of the farm goods are green, all of the mining stuff is yellow. Some of the stuff we find in the forest is not going to let me place anything into my manifest, it's simply good for money. All of the fishing is blue up here. These things that I get are from my neighbor board and some other sort of passes that I can get, blueprints that I can get through a variety of different ways will allow me to draw in pink. And then finally here are metals that I'll explain in just a minute that will allow me to draw in purple. And the colors matter for a couple of reasons. So let's take a look first at the cargo manifest. First things first, you notice at the top here it says each square that I filled in, regardless of color, will be 1 point. Now every paper that we've got in the game of this will also place in 3 different special things down here at the bottom. These 2 on the outside says, in that section, if I place anything of that color, it means purple on this side or yellow mining ones on this side, they will score 0 points. So I don't want any purple here and I don't want any yellow over here. Also in the center, there's always something that scores double. So for every purple I place in this middle section, I will score 2 points, which is going to be really big. Remembering also my objectives, I want rows filled in as much as possible, and you'll see here when I do complete a row, I get a 1 use task of whatever type it shows there. And all of that will score at the end of the game, aside from those objectives that score at the ends of specific seasons. But when I'm placing into this cargo manifest, I can place wherever I want to, and I can rotate the shapes that I'm seeing on this board in any way that I want to. But the same colored square can never be drawn adjacent to the same color. Diagonals are okay, but otherwise I can never place green next to green or blue next to blue and so on. So I have to figure out a way to fill in as much stuff as possible while also being careful not to focus on a single color because they'll never be adjacent to each other. So that is the cargo manifest. The other thing I can do is sell for money. Money is again used for upgrades, used to get animals, used to help build trellises, used to buy energy bars, but then also I can use money to give me some special stuff up here. So here for 3 money, I get 1 additional task of my choice. Here money gets me a wood. Here money gets me a copper. Here 3 money gets an iron. 3 money gets an exo wood. And then 1 of each of these big resources from the woods will double the point value of 1 of these badges, which I'll explain in just a minute. 3 money will give me any 1 resource checked down here. 3 money will give me 1 red blueprint, and 4 money will give me purple blueprint. And I want to point out here while I'm talking about those that these upgrades will always require both a red and a purple upgrade in order to unlock them. So those are going to be important, and that's one way to get those. The other ways to get those are down here in my neighbor bonuses, which I will explain last in just a minute. But I want to point out these badges and medals. For each row I fill in, I unlock a medal. And again, those medals, based on our commissary over here, those medals will either give me money or allow me to fill in purple blocks in my cargo manifest. But then also, when I've gotten all 3 medals in a section, I will then get the badge shown here, and those badges will score this number of points at the end of the game. So I'm trying to fill in as many of those as possible using resources that I can gather from a variety of different sources. Let me sort of reset what's on the screen and we'll get into our final spot, which is then the neighbor rewards. So you see I have 2 spaces on either side of my board. I told you at the beginning of setup or during setup that I drew 4 of these neighbor bonus cards. And what these are going to be is I'm going to choose 1 of these for either side of my board. And what happens is when I gather whatever that resource is, or that fish, or whatever is on that card, instead of using that for me, I can choose to check off the next spot on that neighbor rewards track, which is great because it'll give me something there, and then also discard that card. Now in the multiplayer game, I would be giving that card to someone else to get that reward for them, but there is no other neighbor in the solo game, so it's not physically going to anyone. In this case, it's simply getting discarded. But then again, if it's a pink one, I would be able to check off 2 spaces in that track from left to right. And if it's blue, I would be just checking off 1. So I'm trying to do as many of those as possible. And again, you will see things like this heart right here that will allow me to also fill in some pink spaces in my cargo manifest. So those neighbor bonuses are important. And when I get rid of them at the start of the next round, I will draw a new one. So I will always generally have 2 of those available to me. It's also worth mentioning in the multiplayer game, if you have more of those than somebody else, you'll get 3 points. But in the solo mode, since there is no somebody else, for every box I've checked off here and or here, I will score 3 points for each box. So that's also a great way for me to score points as I'm playing the game. And I think that is it. Now going back into my iPad, I need to pay attention now because most of the stuff is filling in cargo manifests. So I do want to place lots of big stuff in my cargo manifests, which means mining and metals is probably where I want to go. Although if I start getting some animals is a good way to continuously be getting stuff over and over and over again. So that's potentially something else I can do, and that would also help fill in some of these badges. But it's worth pointing out that I really should focus on sort of 1 or 2 main tasks so I don't try and get everything done and end up getting nothing done. Looking at my starting tasks, I have a little bit of everything available to me, but looking at the tasks that are coming up in the next turn, the farm fisher will give me an additional action if I have a trellis built. So I might want to work on getting a trellis built early. And the river dredger will get me a bonus if I've got to level 2 chopping. That might be tricky to do on the first round, but it's not necessarily something I can't get to. But thinking about that, I'm going to place in some things from here. Let's focus on tending and chopping for now. So I'm going to take this one and this pineapple, and those two cards get discarded. Now I need to decide which side I want to put these on. I know that the red blueprint is cheaper than the purple blueprint, so I would like to focus on getting this purple blueprint first. So whatever is easiest should go there. But this stump could be an automatic thing right away if I get lucky with something. So I'm actually going to do that and that. Put this geode over here. All right, so with that, we are all set for gameplay. Let's go ahead and dive into the first round. I need to pick from that list. I need to pick from here 2 tasks, and I think I want to start by taking a tend action. So let's use this tend action right here on the right side in order to place out one of these little pineapple guys down here at the bottom. We're not ready for a trellis yet, and that'll go away fairly soon. Yeah. Then I want to, for my second action, use one of these chopping actions. But maybe I do want a trellis. Hold on, slow down. To get that, I need 2 wood and a coin. I don't think that's going to happen in the first round. Yes, so we're good with what we did. I'm going to go a chopping action, and instead of following the path, let's look for something juicy right away. Because if I can get this guy right here, that'll be an amazing start. So I'm going to start, let's say, over here, the second one over. I scratch off, and that's not horrible. Let me show you why. So if I show this to you up close, you can see that I got a piece of wood, but this is one of the colored spaces with the arrow in the corner. So what that means is first I'm going to get a wood. And that wood can be used for a variety of different things, and I wouldn't mind getting animals to start getting some big things in there, but I want purples. And purples come from metal, so I don't really necessarily want to focus on too much big animal. So I could use the wood to build fences. I don't think that's an option. I could use the wood to build trellises, which is not a bad idea at all. I could use the wood right away to start working on some stuff. But remember, I'm scoring over here for spaces in my board. So if I can start filling things in over there, that's not a bad idea either. I'm not going to do that right away, though. I am going to use the wood for something. And I think that's going to be working towards a trellis. Because if I can get trellises going, placing out those flowers is going to be, this purple one is going to give me these 3s of green instead of single greens from other plantings. So that would be nice to have. And green isn't bad at all anywhere. So let's do that. Then this gets upgraded because of that little arrow. So this gets crossed off. I get 1 gold, so I will use that right away for aiming for that trellis. That's the end of our first round. So the end of the round. First things first, I check my neighbor cards to replace them. There's no neighbor cards gone yet, so that stays like that. Then we would go into the scoring phase if this was round 6. It's not. This is still only round 1, starting round 2 right now. Setup phase. So we're going into the app. I'm going to press next round. And it repopulates the pieces in there. You'll notice there's a timer on the top corner. I'm not going to be using that timer, but that's just to keep things from getting too slow or stale in a multiplayer game. But now we've got some new tasks coming out. We do have some more coming ahead of us. First, 1+ animals owned, which isn't going to happen right away. And over here, 1+ completed column in the cargo manifest. Columns right now is not really what we're aiming for, so I don't know if we'll ever get there either. But this 2+ chopping levels could be really good for me if I get lucky right now. I'm a little worried because I don't think I will, but I also don't necessarily need that meteor right away. But what else can we do? Before we do anything, that was the setup phase. Now we go into the growth phase. So this is going to tick up 1, and now you will see that is a white icon on there, so I do get 1 pineapple. So with a pineapple, I could put 1 green resource in there. I could turn it into 1 money. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it to my neighbor. So that goes away. And now I wish I'd have put it on that side, but that's okay. I get 1 stone. And I don't think I'm going down into the mines with a stone, but a stone is simply just 1 point, or 1... A stone is just 1 thing on here or 1 money. You know what? I'm going to take it for the 1 money and cross off like that. Yeah, not my favorite. All right, so now I get to take 2 tasks. I'd like to do more tending so that I could potentially get a trellis built and then potentially then add in flowers next time. So I am going to tend. And to tend, but wait a minute. No, I'm not tending. I'm chopping first because I'm going to use this card right here and hope that if I can find another level up while I'm chopping, I could potentially get whatever that meteorite looking icon is at the bottom. Yeah, let's try it. I'm going to go straight down from where I went last time. And nope, unfortunately, it's just a plain old white square, which does only get me 1 wood. But that will unlock a trellis for me. So I will absolutely cross that off. And I'm going to place the trellis where? Over here. I haven't tilled the farm yet, but I can put a trellis right there so that when that area is tilled, I will be able to place stuff out into it. So that is great. Again, unfortunately, no upgrade for that space, so I don't get that bottom half of the card, but that's okay. And then the other action I am going to take is this farm fisher, and I'm going to use it for tend. So I do get to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's stay near the other space, 5, 6. That way, once this pineapple, whoops, is gone, I could be able to place a 3 by 3 by tilling 1 more area. And now I do have a trellis, which is great because now I get that fish. And now I just realized that I never drew 2 neighbor cards at the start of my turn, and I apologize. An egg or a fish. I would not have gone for the egg. I know that's a little bit cheating right now, but let's say I did that. Because now I have a choice. I can use that fish for 2 blue spaces, 2 coins, or I can simply get rid of this and get a red pass, a red blueprint, which could be good because then I can start getting stuff going over there. Yeah, let's do that. That goes away, and again, I'm sorry I'm doing that all at the same time, but I got a red blueprint, and I want to focus on my chop action, doing that like that. I do need to be careful because I need to start getting some more of those things, but those things are coming right out right there if I choose to. Yeah, so that's the end of that round. Neighbor phase, I'm drawing new cards here, and this is when I should have done it last time. We've got, ooh, that could be nice, except I really want to use it for a real thing, and they only grow once. Ah, wait, no, that's the wrong thing. That's the big pink one. But that could happen soon, too. Let's do that. Fishes go away. Scoring phase doesn't happen. This will be round 3. So then we go to the next round 3 setup. We get this coming out. We've got 2 new cards on the way. Shiny Collector, 2+ mining levels, and river fishing unlocked is not gonna happen. I'm not even trying for that. 1+ animal and 2 chomping levels is potentially an option if I'm looking to get some animals shortly. And it might be worth getting at least a chicken, but let's see what's going on. That stops for now. What we have now is 1+ animal owned, which is not gonna happen because I don't have the build fences and stuff for it. Here we've got 1+ column in the cargo manifest is absolutely not happening this round. So let's just do what we can. But first things first, this pineapple goes up to level 3. And now we take our turns. I do think that I need to do some tending and some chopping. So it doesn't really matter which one we use. Let's start here with this chop. And I will go left from the new one we just got last time. Good news is it is an upgrade. It is only a single piece of wood, so I don't get this stump yet, but it does get me an upgrade. So I got 1 wood and 1 money to start. And I am going to start working towards one of those because I want to get a lot of purple stuff out here. So that's my 1 wood, and I do get a level 2, which gets me 1 more money. And actually that was a bit of a mistake because I could have started building some fences, but we're gonna stop there for right now. Money. Yeah, I need to work towards an energy bar. I think it would be worth having an energy bar. That's my 1 money. That's no good. We are tending though, and I'm gonna put one of these blue ones that require a trellis in that spot there. Yes, whoops, sorry. My tend action is this one. I don't have any animals, so I don't get the bonus anyway. So that's that. Not great at all, but let's get some other stuff done first. All right, then we switch to the next phase. Neighbor phase, nothing fills in. Scoring phase, not yet. Next round, round 4, we're filling in some new cards. The ones we've got coming up. 2+ mining levels, not gonna happen. 12+ tilled soil. Right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sweet, so I'm already at that. That's great to see. But for this round, 1 animal and 2 chopping levels. I have the 2 chopping levels, but I don't have an animal. I don't know if I will yet, but that's big reward. So I might want to aim towards doing that. And the other was the mining levels and riverfish is not gonna happen. But we tick these up. I got a pineapple and an onion looking thing. And with that pineapple, I think I might, yeah, sell that for money is 2 coins. 1 coin is gonna get me this guy right here. So I do have an energy bar moving forward. That goes away. And now I do get this flower or bulb looking resource, which means I can get a 3 green. And I want spaces of 1 on here to score points at the end of the next round. So I'm going to use this. The cool thing about these markers, one side is a regular marker, the other side is a stamp. So I'm just going to stamp these 3 spaces. Whoops, that leaf is spun a little bit weird. 2 and 3, because doing it that way, I'm going to score 3 points at the end of the game for those spots, but also this empty square right here is a size 1 square that will score me 4 points at the end of this season. So that is very nice to see. And now we do go into the task phase, and that will grow 1 more time in 2 steps. Problem is, I'd love to get one of these out, which means I will need to till once more, but I do now have an energy bar. So I think what may end up happening is I chop twice and I tend twice. No, I don't need to tend twice. Yes, I do, because I need a plant. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So I'm gonna focus on chopping over here, which means I'm going down and I am gonna use an energy bar. So I get to do it twice or once if I was at the bottom, but I'm not at the bottom yet. So twice means I will scratch here, ooh, which gets me one of those ore or meteor looking ones, which I could use here right away. It does get me 2 money or 2 spaces on here, but yellow's not good. I should have started on the other side if I wanted to do that. I could also use it to sell it for 2 money, to buy a chicken or to put out some fences. And yeah, I kind of want to work on getting some stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm working on just getting a chicken pen. Let's do it. Yeah, do I want to go bigger and try and get, no, I don't have the resources for it. I want to have just a chicken. Just a chicken would be nice to have. Maybe? But this would be even better to have. Yeah, let me do that instead. I'm just going to take that. That was a white space, so I don't get an upgrade, but I will move down 1 more. Ooh, this is an upgrade. Ooh, and it's another one of those guys. Less interesting. Couple of things. Yeah, now I am going to get 2 pens. But that's not going to be enough. It could be, though. Because now I get a wood, which is 3. But why do I want that egg so badly? I don't really want the egg so badly. Yeah, I don't really need the egg at all. So I'm going to use that to get 2 money. To do what? Yeah, to work on upgrading my chop action. 1, 2. And then I do unlock one more level of chop, level 3, which is wood. Ah, right, that's why I wanted to do that. Because I was hoping to get those extra stuff from this one. Yeah, but that's not happening right now. It's really not worth pushing, I think. Yeah, with the wood, I'm just going over here and I'm going to work towards this next metal row, I guess. Yeah, and then I am taking a double tend action, which means the rest of my energy bar is gone. And yeah, so we're going to do 6 more of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in doing so, my second tend is to plant one of these, which is a problem because I'm not going to get this bonus right away, but I can work on getting it for the next round. That is the end of round 4, start of the next phase. Neighbors, nothing happens. This will be round 5, advancing to the next round. No scoring is happening, setup is happening. And you'll see the next round is yellow because we will score at the end of this round. This one says 5 or more neighbors completed. Right now I only have 2, but we're getting there. This one says 9 or more tiles covered with fishing goods. I'm not fishing and I don't plan on fishing, so that's not happening. But the things that we have down here this time are 2 or more chopping levels. That is already true. 1 trellis built. That is already true. 2 or more mining levels is not going to happen, and 12 or more tilled soil is already true. Which is better, the fancy fish or the meteor looking guy? They're both 2 and 2, so that doesn't change anything. That doesn't change anything. Growth phase, this ticks to a 3, this ticks to a 2. Yeah. And I want to go chopping. I don't have any energy left, so I can't go below that line. But I do get an automatic meteor if I take that action. So yeah, that's what we're going to start with, chopping here. Do only get 1. I'm going to go sideways. Let's go sideways from this top one. Ooh, yay, new level. And another meteor. I don't know if I like that. Because I'm really wanting to find one of these stumps out there, and they're not anywhere to be found. But I get another meteor, which means I do get 2 coins. Yeah, I'm going to have to work towards an energy bar. Because I then get an upgrade, which is another wood, which is going to unlock this middle guy right here, which gets me a long 3. Well, it's not going to help towards the points that I'm scoring this time, but I know that for the next one, I want things that cross over into sections. And I also, potentially, if I can place out one more something, want to block off stuff. So that means then that I'm going to get from here 1, 2, 3, because those purples in the middle score me more points. But having it cross over the line means I score points next round as well. And it could potentially mean that I could get an empty space there if I fill something in over there. And then from that, I also get now, because I have 2 or more chopping levels, 1 more of those meteors. And using that, then I will definitely unlock my next energy bar. That's 1 coin. I have 1 coin left to spend. I'm going to spend it towards an upgraded hatchet if I can. Then my second action. Yeah. My second action will be a tend action. Now the question is, would I rather have the fish or would I rather have mining? I want the fish, and you'll see why in a minute. All right, I'm tending, and I'm going to use my energy bar to get a double tend. The first one is going to be watering, so these both tick up, and I'm going to get both of those, and then they both go away. So first things first, with this flower, I get 2 neighbor bonuses. So I will check off 1, 2 to get a copper and an iron, which will be copper and iron right there, like that. And the other one is the one that gets me the L-shaped green piece, which I will absolutely put onto my board. On the opposite side corner, just like I did before. 1, 2, 3 like that. So now I have another opening there. And then finally for my bottom part, because I do have a trellis. No, hold on. Let me finish the action. I'm replanting one of these big flower guys. And then from that action, because I have the trellis, I get a fish. That fish gets me 2 blue like that, which means that I can put those right here, 1, 2, because now there's an empty space there as well, which is wonderful. And that is the end of that round. So first things first, for the next round is a neighbor phase. I get to draw 2 cards and try and get a new one here. An egg or that blue flower. That blue flower is very likely to happen. So that will go there. And then scoring phase. So if I hit next round on the app, you will see it says Season 1 scoring. So looking at the Season 1 objective, 4 points for each empty area cargo manifest size 1, which is that corner. This one right here, and then the other far corner. So that's 3 times 4 is 12 points for objective 1. Back into the app next round, refreshing, round 6. Things we have this time: 1 or more completed column in the cargo manifest is not happening. 5 or more neighbor rewards. I've got 4 right now. So if I can find a stump this turn, that'll help us out. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but fingers crossed it does. Because if I can get a purple, then I can get the hatchet upgrade, which would be great. And the end one over here, 9 or more tiles covered with fishing goods, not happening, and we're not going fishing anyway, so I'm not going to be using that. Coming up next time, 2 or more upgraded equipment. No way. I'll have 1 soon, but not the second. And the other says either fishing lure unlocked. That's not happening. All right, so not great, but this does tick up like that. And then we have some things to do. I want to go tending. Yeah, so we are going to use the other half of our energy bar to tend. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plant a pineapple here. Nope, here. And my second action then is I'm going to plant... No, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. I'm planting this blue one, and my second 10 action is watering. So this goes to 3 and this goes to 2. So I get, that is gone, which I'm going to use in my plants zone down here, right there, like that, to start working on another metal. And I get 1 more of those guys, which I will also use down there. Will I ever get a pumpkin? Maybe, but let's start in the middle row first, because that's going to be somewhat easy to get to. Yes. And harvest was either this one or this one, and I did it backwards. Allow me to rewind, please. Oh no, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. Yes, it is, because that's the only 10 that's there. It is going to matter. Let me say I did this chop first, just in case, because if I find one of these, I can get that, and then I will be able to use the bottom half of the other card. So I'm going to go right from here. And no, we found a regular piece of wood and an upgrade, but that's not what I wanted. It is what it is, though. Okay. All right, so we do have 1 more wood here and 1 more wood there. So I have 2 wood, and I'm going to use that to go check, check to get 1 more metal. And now I want to have things crossing over different spots, but I also want to try and fill in rows of my cargo. That is just a 2 purple, but I want to use it. I want to use it. 2 purple. And I'm going to have it cross over again. Let's go 1, 2 like that. Okay. And that's the end of that round. Not great, but not the end of the world. All right, so then, neighbor bonus, nothing happened. It could have. It could have. That was a mistake. Why did I put that there instead of this? This is exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what I wanted. Yeah, that was a big mistake. That was a big mistake. Yeah, I'm undoing that. I apologize, because if I'd have done that, I also get that. Yeah, so I'm doing that instead of that. That was a big mistake, which means I do get 2 more here, a geode and a purple one. The purple one goes there. I don't have that yet because I'm missing a money. I'll make sure I do that in the next round. I'm not going to retcon that. In fact, I might do it right now with the geode. 1 and anything. So I get to pick something from the top row, which is a bone, this red guy, or this crystal. So clearly I'm taking the 3. And filling in things would be a great idea, except that. Huh. I want that coin. I want that coin. So we are going to... Yeah, 1 for this to get the chopping action upgrade, 2 goes there, and 3 goes there. That might be a mistake, but that's what I'm doing. So I did upgrade my chopping, and now because I do have more than 5 neighbor rewards, sorry, I know that's a bit of a retcon, but it is what it is. I'm going to place that there like that. We'll see if we can upgrade tend. That's better. Now this neighbor does come back. And pineapples is likely to happen. Yes, then scoring doesn't happen, set up phase for round 7. And I'm sorry, I haven't been keeping track. Down here in this round tracker, I can write down what actions I took, but I completely forgot to do that, and I can't really remember and go back and do what I'm doing. So I'll do that from now on just to show you what's happening. But we've got 1 or more animals owned, not gonna happen. 2 or more upgraded equipment, very unlikely it happens this round. Either fishing lure, no. Coming up, 9 or more tiles covered with mining goods? Yikes, that's not happening. 5 or more chopping levels, that does happen. So next round, I will get the 2 resources I need for the upgraded tools. That's kind of cool. But for right now, that doesn't help me. Growth phase means this ticks to 3, but that's not great yet. Then, I do have upgraded chop, means I can go down now. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We're chopping, it doesn't matter which one I use. Let's just use the plain old chop because I'm not getting anything out of it. Let's go down because I have a level 2. But level 2 means I could also go over twice and get 2 somethings. And having 2 somethings right now is likely better than having 1 something. Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna go over to this road from here. Oh, that was sad, because usually the road is a free action, and this time I just got a piece of wood, but we'll use my second chop to do it again. Oh, and I finally got my stump. All right, so I got a wood and a stump. The stump I'm going to use here to get a wood and a purple thing. The purple one is there. Now I've got 2 wood to spend. I could put them here. Yeah, let's do that. 1, 2, like that. Yeah. Then, I was gonna tend, but I think I might chop. I think I might chop again. I mean, I could plant a pineapple and get this next time, which gets me a big pink thing for over there, which would be nice. Maybe? I don't know. I need some pineapples and stuff to get these going too, though. Yeah, no, I'm chopping again, because if I can upgrade next time, that would be wonderful. But no, because then the chopping happens next time. I'm going to actually tend and till. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that, because now I've got a 4x4 in there. That might be worth it. Except it kills my trellis spot. That may have been a bad idea, but it is what it is. That's my tend, and that's my end. Neighbor phase fills that back in. Fishies are fishies. Let's go this one, because I see him coming out of a special thing later, potentially. And I don't think I'm actually going fishing. That was round 7. Moving next round, there's no scoring. We've got 1 animal and 2 chopping levels. Nope. 2 mining and river fishing, no. But 9 tiles of mining goods is not happening. This chopping 5 is definitely okay. And then, coming up, 1 fishing plant or animal metals. Not gonna happen right away. We're gonna push for the plants later, maybe. Grotto fishing unlocked means mines. No, we're not doing any mining. All right, so that's that. This ticks up. I do get 1 more of those flowers. And I think I'm going to use it to fill in the thing that I said I filled in before. But that's a problem because we don't have a lot of time left and I really got to work on getting some planting done. But that's okay. I need to start getting some metals scored. I'm going to start with this chopping. So we are doing 2 chops. So I'm going to go down from where I just was. Okay, that's a wood and an upgrade. That's nice. Which gets me 2 wood. Because that's another wood. Each wood is 1 coin. I don't love it, but let's go 1, 2, because it's getting me closer to that. My second, I'm going to go over 1 more. And I got a stump. Which could work towards another metal, but a stump gets me 2 coins. Which is 1, 2, and now because this is the end of that, I get this and this as well. So now I get my tend upgrade. Beautiful. Because now I'm gonna take a tend action over here. I don't have any animals levels, so I'm not gonna get that. But I'm gonna plant a pumpkin there because there's potential to grow over here if I want to. And another pineapple guy over here like that. Good. Yeah, that's the end of round 8. Neighbor phase, nothing happens. Scoring phase doesn't trigger yet. This is round 9. This will be my last round in this season. Growth phase, they both tick up. I get 1 pineapple, which I am going to use to. That gets me a heart. No, I want to work towards goals over here, checking that off. Then what do we got? 1 or more fishing plant or animal metals. We said no to that. And grotto fishing is no. Coming up, 8 or more mining levels. No way. 15 or more cover with farming goods. Means green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is all I've got. That's not going to happen. I'm not doing great. I really want to find another one of these guys. But I can buy back up there. All right, then we're going to chop and tend this round, I think. Yeah, I'm tending first. It's not going to matter, but I'm going to just tick that up and tick that up because they are adjacent. Means I do get my pumpkin. And I'm only using that pumpkin down here like that to fill that one in. We need to get lots of tending happening. And then I'm going to plant. And I think it's got to be this guy. That's my second tend. And then I'm going to chop. And we're going to keep searching up top. So I'm going to go to the right again. We got a stump and an up. That's cool, which means I get 2 stumps. 1, 2 stumps like that. 2 stumps doesn't help because 2 stumps is just coins. But that's beautiful. Because if I put 1 here, I can get energy bars. And then the other 3, 1, 2, 3 gets me. This guy crosses and I finishes this one, finishes that one. I get a rocket chip. They look like rocket chips. I get a silver medal, which is 3 purples in a row. Crossing over lines is worth it. So we're going to do this again. 1, 2, 3 like that. I don't think I'm going to fill in any rows, which is a bit of a problem, but that's that. Plus now I get this medal for 5 points at the end of the game. Yay, and now I do have energy bars for next time. That is the end of the round. Neighbors don't happen, but there is one more thing I didn't point out before, and that is during the neighbor phase, if I don't like one of these, I can throw it away and simply take whatever the next card is. So I'm going to do that because I don't think I'm getting fish. Pineapples is better. I do need 1 more of them, but that's fine. We go to scoring. Season 2 scoring, remembering, says 4 points for each good that's in 2 different sections. This purple, this purple, this purple. I've got 3. Yeah, 3 times 4 is 12 points again. like that. And we move to the next round, 10. But before I start round 10, we are growing. So I get one more pineapple and one of these blue guys. Pineapple does cross off one more metal for me, which is a silver and red metal. Again, a 3 in a row. Problem becomes now, more of them in the middle is better, because they're worth 2 points each. So I'm going to go vertically, starting here, 1, 2, 3, like that. Yeah. Good. And that is that. I also get one of these guys, so I will check off the next one of that row like that. Yes. I need 2 more of those. And I need a big flower. Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. And I can get some pineapples going for these. That's good. Okay. I need to fill in some more rows and stuff. I got lots of individual sprinkles, which is going to make that hard. But we can do some stuff. All right, then. 12 or more tilled soil I have. There's the item that I needed that I just wasted money on. Oh well. Yeah, that doesn't help me at all anywhere except that it's worth $2. Or 2 yellow mining that I can fill in some slots with. Could be. 2 or more mining I don't have. Farming goods, no. Mining levels, still no. All right, so we are doing a chop. There's no chop actions this time. So I may do a whole lot of tending. A whole lot of tending. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so, maybe so. And then we can fill in some stuff. Okay. Then, let's start with, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That takes 2 full actions on its own. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm going to tend. And we'll use this one plus an energy bar. So that's 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2. Plant is 3. Like that. That's my 1 action. And then I'm tending then I get that meteor at the bottom, which gets me 2 coins. Where do I want to spend coins? Where do I want to spend coins? Nowhere really. Nowhere really. I'd love to get some chicken at the end, but that's not really worth spending money on. Can do some more farming. Yeah, you know what? Let's take 2 fences. We'll make space for a chicken, because having a chicken may get me 1 extra action at some point. We'll do that. Then I take a second tending action using my other energy bar. This might be a mistake, but it's worth it. Because then I get 1 of these, 1 more pineapple, like that. And then, if I water this flower, everything else is adjacent to it. So that ticks up, that ticks to a 3, that ticks to a 2, and that ticks to a 2, which gets me a pineapple, and I can get rid of one of these, which either gets me a stump or the heart. I want that heart. My pinks. I'm going to fill in. Where can I get stuff? Here. 1, 2, whoops, that heart is sideways. 3, 4, like that. Then we are going to end that round. We move to the next round, neighbor phase. I'm drawing cards again. An egg or a fish. The egg is possible. Whoops, I should have crossed off that heart. Like that. Then, next round is round 11. Let's take a look at the cards we've got. A trellis built for a fish. Yeah, I should have taken that fish. Again, 2 or more chopping levels to get me a meteor that I don't necessarily need. 9 or more fishing goods, no. 25 tilled soil or 3 animals. Let's see, that's 4x4 is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, easily. That's great. I can do a double tend with that. Wow. And then here, grotto fishing unlocked, no. But I do want to do a chop somewhere. I can do a chop and tend. So I could do 2 chops and a tend, or 2 tends and a chop. But if I do this, I can do another tend as well. Yeah, okay, cool. Then before we do anything, growth happens. This ticks up this ticks up and goes to a thing, which I do need down here, like that. This ticks up and goes to a thing, which I'll use in just a second. This ticks up and goes to a thing as well, which does finish off one of these. Let's do this middle one here. Gets me a gold medal, which gets me a T shape. Now I am going to get one of those. How do I fit this to the best of its ability? I'm going to put this, and it's weird, but I'm doing this, 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 and this because the next one I'm going to put down there in the bottom, and I want space for it. Yeah. Then this pumpkin I get, which is that green shape there. And how do I fit that in best to get me as much stuff as possible? Because I want to finish some rows. I think I'm going to put it over. I can't because there's green there already. I was going to put it there. I can't. Yeah, I kind of messed myself up, but that's okay. I'm going to put it in here and cross my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Because I need a single there and I need a single there, which is doable. We still have 2 rounds left, so let's do what we're doing. Okay, then. Task phase. First things first is I'm chopping. I get 2 chops. I might as well go down now. And we're going to go down from here to this spot right here. Gets me another level and another stump. Okay. A stump and a bone. Oh, that's great. I'll put a stump there. Means I get this bone for the level up, which means I get that bone right there. Cool. And I do have more than 25 tilled. So I do get a double tend, and with that double tend, I need to get for sure one of these guys. And, what else? I think one of these. Why not? Yeah, good. And then I will do another tend, which means I get to place out more things again, which is gonna be... Ooh, can I find a way to get a sheep thing? Hold on, maybe. But anyway, not right now. I'm gonna place out one more of those. Over here. Because now all of those touch, so the second half of that tend is to tick all of those up. I get a pineapple, a flower, and that gets me something. Which means I get, first things first, a pineapple. I have no use for it, so I will use it for that to get another stump, because another stump finishes that and gets me a gold medal. And the gold medal looks like that T shape again, which I'm going to use here. Purple 0 on that side. Don't do that. Do not do that. Yeah, I messed myself up with purples, but let's do... Yuck. Over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Does that pineapple. Then this oniony thing will finish down here, which means I get this sort of platinum level medal, which is the one I've been waiting for. That goes down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Yay. And that also means I get this plant badge. Yeah. And that stays for next time. Cool. Then I do have a trellis built, so I do get that fish. That fish fills in somewhere. That fish fills in over here, 1, 2, like that. And we're almost done if I can put something in that hole over there for a row. Okay. Good. Yeah, that's the end of that round. Yeah, okay. Then neighbor phase I get here. 1, 2. I don't suspect I got either of those things. So let's take that one just because. And then we advance into our final round. No scoring yet, but this is our last round. There's nothing coming to the next turn. Let's see. 5 or more neighbor rewards completed is great. Because now we can fill in some stuff with some hearts. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, good, 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 good. What's over here? 3 or more columns in the manifest, nothing. 1 column completed, nothing. Lake fishing unlocked, no. Okay, so we are absolutely doing that. Chopping? I think chopping is right. Yeah, we're gonna, hold on, let me make sure there's another 10 somewhere. There is, okay. So we're chopping. And I'm gonna go down from over here. And I get just a stump. Just a stump does nothing for me, but just a stump lets me fill in 5 fences. I could work to get a chicken over here. But the chicken's not gonna hatch. I mean, the chicken's not gonna have eggs because there's no growth phase before the end, so that's useless. Wood gets me 2 money. Or sorry, the log thing gets me 2 money. What do I do with 2 money? I could work towards copper. Copper would fill in one of those holes with a yellow single. Maybe? What else can I do? I could work towards more advanced woods, but I'm not getting any more woods. Yeah, let's do it. I'll do 1 there to get a copper, and 1 there just because we have the extra money. The copper becomes a single dot in here somewhere. Like that. Good, because we may be able to finish another row. Ooh, yeah, we will. Okay. Then I get a purple or a red blueprint. I want the purple blueprint because that gets me 2 pink stamps. Which means 1, 2 like that finishes the row and gets me an additional chop action. Like that. So now we come back into my chopping. And I'm going to go down from that stump. Ooh, that's beautiful. I get a bone and I get another level up, which is my 10th level up, which gets me that sort of cup-looking thing as well. And that is a 4 yellow sort of rectangle thing. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing, that's amazing, that's amazing. The bone is 3 yellows. The cup is, or the jar is 4 yellows like that, which means, whoops, that's not yellow. If I do this, it's not going to finish, but that still fills in some pretty stuff. I could go 1, 2, 3 for the bone, and then, those 2 aren't going to score, but it could potentially fill in a hole. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 over there. If I can get a 2 something over here, which I can do in a minute, that's going to be pretty. Okay. I got 1 more action. And it's going to be 10'd. That's a problem. It's not really a problem, but it's a problem. Oh wait, I can use those to fill in things. Yeah, I'm going to water. Those flip, that doesn't. That doesn't. Oh, it's a double action. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I'm going to do it twice. It seems to be a waste, but I'm going to do it twice. My second 10 is that. So I get all of those things. Because for the small flower, I get 3 here is 1, 2, 3. That does fill in that row, which I'm going to take my first ever mining action in a minute. But then I also get these 2. I also get those 2. And with those 2, I can do a couple of things. Each of these is worth 3 coins. So first things first, I'm going to do 1, 2 to get that iron. And then, I don't know, put a 3 there. Hold on, maybe. We'll see. No, not there. Not there, here. Because that iron is a single dot. that fills in that spot right there, which also gets me a fishing action. So now you get to see your first mining and first fishing. Let's start with mining. No, I still have one more of those, which gets me 3 more money. And the reason I did that is because I can go 1, 2, 3 to take this blueprint, which is a 2 pink, which I can use to fill in 1, 2 like that. Yeah. Then I get a mining action and a fishing action. Mining, we will start right here. And I got no level up, just a stone, but a stone is still a single yellow. So I will put my single yellow right there. And then I get a fishing action. We didn't unlock any of the special fishing, so we're using pond fishing. I roll my dice. Is a 2 and a 10. Means 2 anything. I'm taking this little dude. This little dude right here gets me a 3 blue. So that 3 blue goes 1, 2, 3 like that, which fills in another row, which is kind of silly because it's not going to mean anything. It's a tend action. Oh wait, no, this row is filled in. Oh, that was the mining action I took already. This gets me another tend action. The problem with a tend action is, even if I plant, nothing's going to happen. Oh no, that's a tend task. A tend task, which means I can do whatever I want to do, means I can get another 3 green. Because the first one is planting, and my second, because I get a +1, is growing. So I get another one of those L shapes, and I will just put it in here, 1, 2, 3. Doesn't finishing anything else off, but that is amazing. That is the end of the final round. And it would have been amazing if I could have, having done all that, finished 3 columns, but I only finished 2, nope, just 1 column. So that's not going to get me the extra good in any of my projects. So that is that. That is that. Now you'll see if I press next round, it just says season 3 scoring. So let's go ahead and take a look. Remembering I get 8 points for each completely filled row. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 completely filled rows. Beautiful. That's 32 points. And now we go to final scoring. So 12 and 12 is 24. 24 and 32 means 56 points. I'm looking install 1. Install 1, everything but purple counts. So that purple up here in the top corner doesn't count for anything, but otherwise we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 points install 1. Install 2, each of my purples is worth 2. Everything else is worth 1. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. Then 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44 points. Let me just count that again to make sure I didn't make any mistakes, because that's a lot. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, that is 44 points there. Over here, yellow doesn't count, so those 2 didn't work, but it did get me the column or the row, so that's great. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 points. So 44 and 16 is 50, plus 10 is 60. So that is 79 points. Neighbors, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 neighbors times 3 is 30. Badges, I've got the basic woods for 5 and plants for 15 is 20. So that is 50. Good Lord, this is a great score. I am happy to have shown this off on camera. I'm crossing my fingers really hard that I didn't mess anything up, because this is quite a bit higher than I've done before. But let's see what happens. 56 and 79 and 50 is an amazingly high score of 185 points. Just like that, we have finished the game. I'm sorry I didn't use the tracker down here, but for example, in my last round, I would have done chop and 10, just like that, to keep track of what I did during the round, but it really doesn't matter. It's just there to be helpful. And again, I hope that having not used it, I didn't make any mistakes, but I think I got everything, and I think we did pretty well. This is the first game I've played the 10 tasks so heavily. This is also the first game that I've put so much stuff in the cargo manifest, but that's because the 3 objectives were very cargo manifest heavy this game, so I'm very excited to see that play out. This is the point in the game where I do like to take a look at the components. First off, visually, graphically, yay, 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 yay. This is the first IV Studio game I'm covering on the channel, but one of the main reasons that I was even originally attracted to IV Studio is because of their gorgeous design work. Everything here is super pretty. Just showing this to you again up close because the art on there is very nice looking. Again, here, this looks really cool now that I've started digging into it. Really nice scratch off. If you watch my video for the Zac Attack scratch off, this is very similar to that. I love the way that these new scratch boards are working. Super easy to scratch, really pretty design or art on the top layer, as well as then very easy and clear to see underneath. Great, great componentry there. This metal coin is very pretty. It is cool to see it because these are the coins that I'm collecting throughout the game. My only one complaint though is that a completely round edge scratch tool does mean that occasionally you accidentally scratch into the next corner or the next square, especially when the squares are the size that they are. So having one pointy edge may have been helpful to get better, more precise scratching, or at least a slightly narrower edge at some point. But it works very well. These dice are super chunky. The iconography on them is very easy, very clear to see, very easy to follow. Very nice punchy colors. You didn't get to see any animals in this game, but I just love the way that these work. And I love that they have all of this amazing dice componentry in here, and you're not rolling any of these. They're all just trackers, but they work really well as trackers. These dice as well, very easy to read at a glance because of the high contrast black and white. The 10 symbol is a really cool looking symbol. All of the cards are very easy to read. Lots of small cards, but they're not hard at all to parse because they are mostly just a big icon with the sort of 1 or 2 at the bottom. Again, there's a lot going on in these boards, and I'll talk a lot more about this in my final thoughts, but everything really makes sense, and it's really easy to pick up after a round or 2 of gameplay, realistically. Definitely after your first game, there's nothing here that is that hard to figure out, except what a good turn looks like and how to score a lot of points, which might be tricky. These markers, again, don't come in the base or sort of in the core box, but they are available separately, and I would absolutely say, hey, grab some, because they're really cool that you can use them just as stamps to fill in the boxes, and you don't have to worry about sort of drawing any pictures. I mean, realistically, you could just cross off each square with a color or fill in the squares with a color. The game itself does come with, and these are still in plastic, so excuse the reflection, but these are the pencils that the game comes with, which are very nice pencils and could be very easily used as is. They all do have erasers on them as well, which might be helpful because that means then if you do make a mistake like I did a couple of times, or I pulled something back, instead of having to circle that thing and then recolor it in later, I could have simply erased that pencil. But that's what's in the box. Very, very nice set. The scratch off, so let me say this first off, the amount of materials in this box are such that you can play this for a very long time. Here are the farm boards. I've got so many of these, and I'm sure, well, I know for a fact they have PDFs that I can print these out if I need more. I do wish that they were double-sided because it is a shame to throw them away after one use, but very, very nice thick set of those. Same thing with those projects. I don't know if they're intended to come in 2 sections, but mine came as 2 pieces. But again, tons and tons and tons of those project pages. And then also the scratch off actually comes in a box in the box. And there's 100 of those in there. Again, tons and tons and tons of those. And there's actually a digital version of these as well. If you don't want to keep scratching these off, you can simply do it on a cell phone screen or an iPad screen instead of scratching off, which is very nice to have as well. Otherwise, the box is mostly just a cardboard trough insert like this. Things do fit in there very nicely, but there's not any kind of sort of super organized insert for that by any means, but it is nicely designed and it does hold everything very well. So thumbs up from me on that. Components, again, in this game, really, really cool. The artwork, I should show you the other side of these, is just a color player marker, because in the multiplayer game, when you're done taking your tasks, because everybody's doing it at the same time, you flip that over to show that you're done doing your turn. But everything here, just the colors are punchy, the design is pretty, everything looks thematically integrated, tied in, graphically really, really cool. Big fan, again, of the visuals from IV Studio, very easy to parse and play. That's basically all I have to say about the components. Now maybe back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the game itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. I did very well in that playthrough and I was very happy to see how I could do. So fingers crossed. I am recording this before I had a chance to edit the gameplay. So I hope that I didn't make too many mistakes, and you will have seen those down in the subtitles. And if not, definitely check out the pinned comment down below if there is one, where I will put any other mistakes I may have found along the way. But also this one is exciting because, as I mentioned up front, you should have been able to play along with me if you use the code Purple Moose in the web app. So definitely post some scores down below or some comments down below if you did play against me. I'd be very curious to see how you did as well. So here we go. This is actually the first IV Studio game that I'm covering on this channel, and it's very exciting because this is a company whose stuff is visually really, really cool, and I keep seeing pictures pop up of all different kinds of games. You see I've got a couple others here behind me that I'm hoping to cover in the future, potentially. In any case, I've always wanted to try their games, and for whatever reason, I never really got a chance to, so I was very happy that the publisher did send some copies for review for me to take a look at. So let's get into what I think about Tend. How do I discuss this? Tend is a flip and write at its core, right? You are flipping cards and using those cards to write things onto a paper in order to score points before the end of the game. But this is quite a bit bigger and chunkier and heavier than most other flip and writes. And I'm gonna say the first time I took this out and I looked at all the stuff on the board on the table and I said, Jesus, look at all this stuff here. What have I gotten myself into? I like heavy stuff, so I didn't mind it, and I sat down and pushed my way through. And the first time I played, I wasn't really sure I knew what I was doing, but I kept going and it was fun. The different combinations of things were still interesting for me. I just didn't really know how to do anything well, and sort of what I thought I should be doing may not be what I thought I should be doing or what I should have been doing. But in any case, I pushed my way through. And I still can't say that I'm 100% sure that I'm really good at this, but my score did just show that I play somewhat well now, I hope. And it's definitely something that I'm slowly getting into more and more as I play, and I'm really enjoying the experience here as I figure out how everything sort of interweaves and interconnects, and the different kinds of combo potential that you have to score in this game and so on. So let's dive into some of the more details about this game and what it is that I enjoy about it, because as I was playing this and as I was posting my sort of plays online, I did get some feedback from other people that there were some things about this that they didn't necessarily like. So let's talk about that as well. In any case, this is a flip and write game at its core. You've got two player sheets, one of which represents sort of projects. There are different things that you're trying to achieve to attain medals, and then ultimately to achieve badges, and the badges are going to be worth points at the end of the game. You've also, on the other side of that page, got what's called a cargo manifest. So as you're collecting resources in the game, you always have the option to either sell those resources to get money to immediately spend on something else, or to store those resources into your cargo manifest. And I'll come back to this in just a minute, but the cargo manifest is interesting because there are several different types of resources you'll be collecting that are all different colors. And the rule is that you can place anything you want to in that cargo manifest, except that the same colored resource can never be orthogonally adjacent to the same colored resource. Also, the cargo manifest is split into 3 different columns. And the center column is going to score double points for a specific type of resource, while the other two columns are going to score 0 points for two different, this one and this one being different specific types of resources. Otherwise, any resource on any square in that manifest will be worth 1 point per space. But again, specific resources will score nothing on the outside columns, and a specific resource type will score double in the center column. On that page, you also have some other projects, which are things that you can spend resources on to unlock sort of other resources or bigger resources or other things that you can do, additional bonus actions, and so on. But otherwise, most of the stuff you're doing is going to be on the other player sheet, because that is the representation of all of the different tasks, which are the actions that you can be taking, as well as your main farm, which is where you're going to be sort of planting and growing and tending plants of different kinds, but also where you can start building out pens to start raising animals that will get you resources like eggs and wool and milk as well. Granted, it's alien eggs and alien wool and alien milk, but it's basically Earth adjacent. Anyway, on a side of that, you also have a scratch off, which is really cool, that represents two of the actions or two of the tasks, which are chop, which is basically going out into the forest to look for resources, and mine, which is going down into the mines to look for resources. And you're going to find a variety of things in there as well, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's step back. The way that the game works is this. There are sort of 3 different sets of cards that you're going to be playing with. The first sets of cards are main objectives. So the way you're scoring in this game is there are 3 rounds, and at the end of every round, you're going, I say round, but sort of sections of game, because each section will have several rounds in it. But there are several groupings or seasons in this game, and at the end of each of those seasons, there's some kind of objective that will score. And then at the end of the game, you'll also be scoring based on the badges that I mentioned, based on the cargo manifest that I mentioned, but also you're going to score points for having shared resources with your neighbors, which I'll talk about in just a second, because that's another type of card. But each of these 3 objectives is going to give you specific things, sort of specific physicality of how you put things into your cargo manifest that might score, specific types of actions, specific types of resources, how many badges you get by the end of a specific season, and so on. So it's giving you focus on sort of what kinds of things you're trying to accomplish as you go through. And that's incredibly important because, as I mentioned, there's so much stuff that's possible here. You really need that focus to sort of drive what it is that you're doing in the game. But ultimately, the game comes down to a series of cards that give you options of tasks. So at the start of the game, you're using starter cards, and each of the starter cards will have a single task type on it, and there will be 5 on the board. You're going to choose 2 tasks from those cards in order to take. Then you've got 2 stacks of cards that will be some Season 3 cards with Season 2 cards on top, with Season 1 cards on top. And each of those cards will generally have 1 or 2 types of task at the top that you can take, then with some kind of condition in the middle that if you match the condition in the middle, you get some kind of bonus resource or bonus task action available to you for having done that thing. So this means you've also sort of built in an additional focus of things you're trying to achieve so that on future rounds you can do more powerful tasks or get some free resources for having met these conditions. In any case, there are 4 main types of task in this game. There is the tend task, which is where the game gets its name. There is the chop task, the mine task, and then there's a fishing task where you can go fishing trying to catch fish. And each of those is going to work slightly differently, and I'm going to walk you through all of those right now. But basically, again, every round there are 5 task cards, and some of those will have a single task, and then again the more advanced ones will have 1 or 2 tasks with an additional thing you can unlock if you match some kind of condition, being a certain level somewhere, having some kind of upgrade, and so on. But the way this works is, first, let's talk about these actions. First one is tend. Tend actually gives you a choice of 3 different actions you can take. You can plant a new crop in your field. You can water crops in your field, and the way that water works is you choose a specific crop, and anything that's touching that crop will also get watered, and they all sort of tick up to the next level of value. And I'll explain what that means in just a second. And the third thing that you can take is the till action. I said you can plant crops in your field, but your field actually starts only with a small area that is plantable. you have to have tilled the land in order to plant the crops. And the crops are going to be dice, actually. They're never rolled. They're just cubes with values on every side. But they will be in different sizes. So there's a 2x2 cube, a 3x3 cube, and a 4x4 cube. And again, in order to place that out, it has to be able to fit onto an area of your board that is already completely tilled using that till action, plus whatever the tilled space you started with at the beginning of the game. There's also a specific crop that will require a trellis that can only be unlocked by spending some money and wood to draw a trellis onto a 2x2 square in your field. And if it has a trellis and is also tilled, you can place that specific crop in there. And why do you want to do that? Well, because the crops are obviously going to be harvested at some point, and when they're harvested, that gives you a resource that you can use to either put into your cargo manifest or to upgrade something or to use in a variety of different ways on the board. And this happens at the end of every round. Every crop on your field is ticked up 1. And again, if you use that water action again, everything that's adjacent to whichever crop you're focused on will tick up 1. And all of these cubes will have the sort of harvested crop at some point. Some of them just tick up once, give you the crop and go away. Some of them tick up once, give you a crop, and then tick up 2 more times, give you another crop and go away. And one of them ticks up twice, gives you a crop and goes away. So the crops will always disappear after you've harvested them once or twice, depending on the type of crop. So you do have to constantly sort of be tending the crops, meaning you have to, once you've tilled the soil, you're planting and harvesting and planting and harvesting if that's a task that you are focused on. While I'm talking about this task, however, there is also animals, and animals are not actually part of a task. Animals require you to build fencing and to buy the animals by spending resources and money. So you can spend money or resources to build fences on your board, and the number of fences you can draw is going to depend on which resource or how much money you're spending. It's 1 coin per fence, but then some of the higher level resources will allow you to place a bunch of fences for a single resource. But the point is you're trying to sort of outline cube spaces on your board. Again, 2x2, 3x3, or 4x4, depending on which animal you want. And then once you've built out that pen, you then have to spend money and resources, I think maybe just money, to place out those animals on your board. And the cool thing about animals, they work just like the plants in that they tick up and give you resources, except when the animal reaches the end of its sort of resource count, it resets back to 1. So the animals never go away because they're giving you renewable resources of eggs and wool and milk that doesn't require the animal to die in order to get those resources, whereas the plant is harvested and then there is no more plant unless you plant a new one. So this is the sort of farm economy that's happening in this game, and it's one way to get a bunch of resources, but there are still 3 other tasks. The second task I'm going to talk about is fishing, because it then ties back into some of the other tasks. And that is a quite random, at first, quite random task. And what I mean by that is you're going to roll 2 dice, and the 2 dice are of different colors, and they dictate sort of a column and a row. So whichever numbers you roll will dictate the specific space you've rolled based on a specific column and a specific numbered row. You take whatever resource you get. And it might be a piece of coral, it might be a piece of fish, or a piece of fish. It might be a fish, it might be a piece of wood if you didn't get real lucky. And those things, again, are going to act as resources that will go into your cargo manifest, that will unlock metals, that will unlock upgrades, and so on as you collect these things. Except it is based on a random die roll. Pause there, because there is a way to upgrade every action. Every action has an upgrade associated with it that you can get by spending a variety of resources and coins to unlock. And for most of the actions, means chop and mine and tend, all the upgrade does is it gives you 1 additional action to take when you use that task. So normally when I tend, I can do 1 tend action. Normally when I chop, I can do 1 chop action. Normally when I mine, I can do 1 mine action. But if I've unlocked the upgrade, I can take 2 actions for a single task. Means in a round, if I've upgraded both of the actions, I could do 4 actions in a single round instead of just the 2 that I start with. But fishing is a bit unique, because fishing actually has 4 upgrades. And 2 of those upgrades are going to be an additional action, action that you can take when you take that task. The problem is I can never fish in the same spot more than once. So even if I unlock multiple actions, I can't get 3 things or 2 things because I can only take from each spot once. The other 2 actions, the other 2 upgrades for fishing are new fishing rods. One of them lets you fish not just the spot you rolled, but any of the 4 orthogonally adjacent spaces to that spot. which means if I have 2 actions, I can take any 2 things in that cross pattern shape. And if I unlock 2 of the upgrade actions, I could take any 3 things in that cross. The other fishing pole lets me unlock all 9 spaces in that square. So the space that I've selected plus the other 8 spaces around it, I can take anything in that area, 1, 2, or 3, depending on the number of actions that I've got. And again, all of these upgrades happen by spending other stuff in order to unlock them. And every time you earn something in this game, be it money or resources, it has to immediately be spent on a project that gets you something, on unlocking medals, which eventually unlocks badges, on these upgrades, on pens, on animals, or potentially put directly into your cargo manifest to score on objectives and to score on just filling up of that manifest. But the other thing interesting about fishing is you start with a small fishing grid, again, rolling dice to figure out what you're going to get, but there are 3 other fishing areas you can unlock that have better stuff in them. The main one, I can't remember what they're all called. One is lake, one is grotto, and one is, I think, maybe river. I believe the lake one is one that's unlocked directly on the main board simply by spending some different resources and money and gives you access to that new fishing spot. Both the grotto and I believe the river are unlocked by the other 2 tasks, which are mining and chopping. And they both work basically exactly the same. You're just doing them in different places, and they give you a variety of different kinds of resources, and they focus on different badges and medals to unlock. But for both chop and mine, you've got a little map, which is a grid of scratch-off table. And you're starting always from the top of that grid. You can scratch off any of the top spaces anytime you take that action. And again, when you take a chop action, you can scratch off 1 square, or 2 if you've unlocked the upgrade. And if you take the mine action, you can scratch off 1 or 2 if you've unlocked the upgrade, although that's not completely true because the grid that you're scratching off has a line through the middle of it. And again, you're always allowed to scratch off any square at the top of the grid or any square that's adjacent to one that you've already scratched off. Problem is, everything above that center line is 1 action to scratch off, but everything below the center line is 2 actions to scratch off. So you really need to start working on those upgrades if you want to get to the meatier stuff, because below that line is where these sort of more useful resources are. And I say more useful because when you're selling things for money, you get more money for those rarer resources. But also when you're putting things into your cargo manifest, the shape that you're filling in means the number of blocks and the shape of the blocks that you're filling in on that grid is going to get bigger and worth more for these sort of rarer or better resources that you're unlocking at the bottom of these things or in these better fishing zones, or when you start placing out the giant cubes in your field of animals or plants and so on. So you're digging through the mines or you're chopping through the forest, and if you manage to get all the way down to the bottom of the grid, this is when you unlock the grotto fishing or the what I believe to be river fishing spots that have even better fish types that you can get to. But again, also while you're chopping, getting wood, getting mining equipment, these are the kinds of resources you're going to need in order to unlock some of these upgrades. These upgraded resources are coming from chopping and mining. Many of the resources you need for those projects that unlock extra things are coming from resources from chopping and mining. And then, of course, there are badges that are focused on each of the different tasks and also on combinations of each of the different tasks. So you're trying to get all of these things done. There are also energy bars you can buy by spending money. And each of the energy bars are 2 use plus 1 action when you take a task. So you're trying to use those to get more stuff out of each of the tasks that you're taking. Also trying to upgrade to use the upgrades to get more powerful or sort of more actions in a single turn as you're playing through the game, ultimately trying to get resources to unlock more stuff, to get more badges, to place more stuff into your cargo manifest in order to match all of these objectives. And again, it's a lot of stuff going on. But one of the complaints that I heard is that there's lots of cards out. You have 5 task cards out every round, and there's only 4 task types. So it might feel like you basically have access to whatever you need at any time, and it's the sort of using of the task card in order to take your action, meaning the actual flip and right piece of this game, is not that meaningful. But I think that's how I felt when I first started a little bit as well. But the more I play, the more I realize that Understanding the objectives, understanding how to use the cargo manifest, understanding how to focus on specific medals and specific badges means that I want to have specific tasks. And those task cards that come out might dictate to me what I have available to me, but more importantly, it might dictate to me what I don't have available to me. So while it may be that I can always take the things that I want to, sometimes when I really want to take that thing, it's not there anymore. Or more importantly, if I'm really focused on a specific task, because you really should sort of focus on 2 tasks-ish when you're playing, sometimes, some rounds, I would really like to take that task twice if possible. And depending on those task cards that come out, that twice might not happen as frequently as I'd like it to. Also, I mentioned that after the first round, the additional cards that you're drawing into that task row to each round will have some kind of condition that gets you a bonus later on. And I promise you, if you're not aiming to trigger that bonus, then you're really missing out. And you really do need to focus on how best can I match as many of those conditions as possible while also focusing on my 3 objectives that I need to get done in order to score the big points. So you really kind of have to do everything you can to get as many of those conditions done, because after those cards get added into the task row, at the end of the round, all of those cards go into a discard pile. And when your deck runs out, all of that discard pile gets shuffled, which means those extra cards that are added in as tasks with conditions, especially the ones that get added in early in the game, go into the discard pile and get shuffled back in, and they'll come back out into the game 2, 3, 4 times while you're playing, which means that some of those early ones, if you can get that condition done early, you're getting a ton of extra bonus based off of 1 or 2 conditions throughout the entire game. Whereas later on, some of those cards are going to be harder to do, but they'll also get you bigger bonuses if you can manage to hit those things. So it really, really does work to focus on things. I also forgot to mention the chop and the mine tasks have sort of levels that you're building up, and when you scratch off certain areas, they'll have a sort of little level up symbol, and by doing that, you also get higher level in that task, which doesn't really mean anything for the action itself, but it means you get an additional resource of some kind, but then a lot of those conditions refer back to being a certain level of each of those tasks. So you're trying real hard to try and focus on a couple of things that tie into those conditions, but also tie into the objectives. And every time you play, the objectives are going to be different because there are quite a few objectives in the box. The task cards that you play with every time will be different. The order that they come out in will be absolutely different. And in fact, the cargo manifest paper that you play with every time has different resources printed at the bottom on each page. So the kinds of resources you're looking to place in the center and avoiding on the outer edges will be different every time you play the game, which really does switch things up a bit. And then based on the tasks that you're focusing on, the badges and the medals that you're focusing on will also be different. I should point out those medals are not scoring points, but those medals actually turn into resources that can either go into your cargo manifest or get more money for other things. Everything ties in together, and the more you play this game, the more you see that. But also because of the variation in objectives and the variation in these task cards, every time I play the game, I feel like I need to think about what I'm doing in a slightly different way, or sometimes quite largely different way, to try different things, to get different combos, to hit different objectives, and it feels really, really good every time I do it. So I'm really enjoying everything I see in the box. There are also, one more thing I didn't talk about. There are always on next to your board 2 neighbor cards, one on either side of the board. And if you're playing multiplayer, what that means is each of these cards has 1 or 2 resources printed on it. And when you get that specific thing, you can give that to your neighbor, which means at the start of the next turn, they get that resource. But when you do that on your board, you're also checking off a box on your neighbor track. And the neighbor track is going to give you some big, powerful bonuses, big, powerful resources, some of which are these blueprints that you need to unlock your upgrades. And the blueprints are only coming from those neighbor tracks and from the project board where you're paying to unlock them for the most part. You might find them as bonuses in some of those conditional task cards and so on. But those are going to be really important, so it really helps to give things to your neighbor. Now, in the multiplayer game, you score 3 points for each of those that you've given if you've given more, if you've been more generous than your neighbor has been to you. Whereas in the solo mode, you're scoring a flat 3 points for every single one of those you do. Now, there's no neighbor to give it to, and nobody's ever giving you anything, but it's still worth giving away a resource to potentially get something more powerful plus 3 points at the end of the game. So that adds in another wrinkle to the game that is a lot of fun, and some of the conditions are also based on how many neighbor cards you've given away. So just level upon level of things you can do with specific objectives that focus your brain on those things, and I'm really having a blast with this game. But let's talk about solo. Because solo in this game is a beat your own score. The game plays exactly the same way as it does in multiplayer, except for what I said about the neighbor cards, where there is no neighbor, so you're just giving resources away to potentially get better stuff and also get the 3 points per neighbor card at the end of the game. Otherwise, the game plays the same way, except that there is absolutely no win condition in this game. There's no scoring threshold in the book, at least as far as the sort of core game goes. It's just play to see how well you can do, and now play to see if you can do better than you did the last time, which is fine as far as how to get into the game, but for me as a solo mode, that doesn't work. I want a win condition. I want something I can beat. I want something I can do better than. I want some kind of level of checkbox that I can say, hey, I played well this time, or hey, I could have done better this time. I understand though, because of the randomness of things and because of the combinations of things, it's not really easy to give a flat point score that says beat this, because it might be the cards you got this time were really easy and the cards you get next time are really hard, and the scores are going to be quite different. And in a multiplayer game, that doesn't really matter because you're all playing with the exact same cards. So you're all being given the same opportunity to do as well as the other person. So they don't have to worry about that sort of scoring mismatch in a multiplayer game. So in the solo game, as written, I don't love what's happening here because it doesn't give me enough push to do the things that I want to do. That said, as you saw in my video, there is an app version of sort of the card system, so you don't have to flip these cards, you don't have to shuffle these cards, but also what that means is, on the last page of the rulebook, there's a list of content creators, basically. And each content creator has some kind of thing that they managed to achieve during the game, the point value they scored at the end of the game, and then a code to the website that will load up the exact same set of cards that they played with. Well, now the solo mode becomes basically a multiplayer mode against somebody who's played before in the past. And in addition to having a score that you're trying to beat, it gives you a unique challenge or goal of something you need to achieve in that game while you're playing in order to call it a win. Well, now I've got an achievement that I need to hit and a score threshold that I'm looking to beat. And I know that it's sort of keyed to something because it's based on an actual game that somebody's played in the past. And now the solo mode sings for me, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. So there are quite a few of these on the back page. Now, once I've played through all of them, is it going to be still fun to do that? Yeah, probably so, because once I've played through all 10 or whatever there is there, starting back to the first one, I'm not going to remember anything, and the cards are going to come out, well, yeah, they should be shuffled to come out differently. I don't know how that quite works, but in any case, I won't remember having done that. I will have a slightly different cargo manifest. I will have a different scratch off, chop, and mine task. So it will be slightly different regardless. I will be given different neighbor cards because those aren't in the app either. So again, I could play the same challenge multiple times, especially after I've played through everything and come back to the beginning. And also, this gives the ability, not with the specific goal achievement that you're trying to achieve, but at least with the community on BGG or wherever else, or people recording videos like myself, to be able to share the code from the game that they played and then challenge people to do better. And in that case, the solo community could absolutely turn this into something that travels and continues for a long time. And the publishers themselves could continue to put out more of these sort of challenges on their website or on BGG or what have you. So in that case, having seen that and having used that version of the game, now I enjoy the solo quite a bit more than I did just by score what you can and that's what you scored. I don't like solos that way. So thank you for those challenges, and thank you to any of you who watched this and played along. Again, please leave comments with your play style, with your goal, with your final score, etc., so I can just compare with all of you and turn this solo game into a community game instead. That's basically all I have to say about this game. As always, I do hope that this video was helpful for you, and if it was, I do ask that you please remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.